Hi. Hi, and welcome to the Man Myth Podcast. It's a Sunday, which is weird for us, but hey, we're getting done.
Life happens.
Baby did not want to cooperate.
And he's not talking about
It
me.
sure does.
I was ready. So this week,
He was ready.
we're talking about, well, the title's Gesundheit, because we're going to talk about the difference between have and choose. And this came up during a conversation I had with one of my clients, because at some point in the conversation, they kept saying, I have to. And I asked them to say, well, what would it be like if you chose to? What would the difference be? And they didn't know. They were like, I can't even imagine if I chose to do something. In this situation we were talking about, I mean, we choose things all the time.
Right.
As I was breaking it down for them, and we'll talk about that as we go along. But it was funny because a couple times since this, like I was mowing, and as I'm mowing around, I was looking at something. Oh, I have to get that done. I was like, crap.
Oh, no.
No, you can't do that. So
Not that one.
It was interesting when we bring things into our awareness, how we can catch ourselves. I think sometimes even in teaching what I teach, I still fall into that stuff, right? But I'm aware of it very quickly. And then I can actually work with, how did I feel during that? Did it feel overwhelming? And I think sometimes it does, but there's other times that it's just a matter of fact thing. So I think it's more getting the plan together, but not having the energy behind it that it's a burden, let's say.
Right. Well, and I get that with work. I don't think all the haves are necessarily mine aren't necessarily an obligation. I just sometimes have to remind myself, okay, I have to do this, this, and this today because that's the order I need to do them in.
Right.
But I also have to choose how to do it safely, and I also don't feel like when I get up, I don't feel like I have to go to work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's not I know I have to go to work. I need to make money and pay bills and stuff like that, but I don't wake up and go, ugh, I have to go to work. And then be disappointed about it. I get up and I'm like, all right, let's get the day going. And the busier I am during the day, obviously, the easier the day goes by, the faster the day goes by, for me at least. If I have a day where I have stuff spread out or I do a lot of driving, it just drags on. But I don't wake up. It's just nice to have a job that you don't think, oh, I have to go to work.
And I think that's an important distinction, because it's the energy behind what the word is. In the case where I was talking to this person, it was it was dragging them out. It was dropping their energy levels. If you were going to a job you didn't like, then your have to would be different. Right.
Exactly.
So
yes.
In the way of this, when we talk about choose, you choose to go to work. And it doesn't mean that.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you have, again, I'm not going to go today, but I still want to get paid kind of thing. It's you have a positive energy about going to work. There's a lot of positives to it.
Right.
It's like when I was driving around when I was mowing, and I'm like, oh, I have to cut that tree down. It was not a negative thing. It was just like, let me put this in my priority. Right. It sounds funny if I said I choose
Right.
to cut that tree down, but what specifically what we're talking about here is the energy behind it, and how, and it isn't just these two words. You can apply this to any words. Is the energy behind what we're saying.
Right. Well, and that's such a big thing in everything is the energy behind it. Because that's what makes, I mean, that's what makes everything, that's what starts your day off. Like, I would have so many more terrible days if it was, oh, I have to go to work. Great. And like, you start your day off with that negative energy, then it just continues to, it continues to go through and wear down your whole day, because it's never going to get better after you start off that way. Well, or it's harder to get better once you start off that way.
Well, it starts to, energy cascades, and it can be positive or negative. What we don't want to do is go down the negative cascade, where it just, everything builds on the last negative.
Right.
So one of the things that I noticed too is, say progress in a day, and I say I have to do something. I think that encumbers it. It makes it more of like a burden kind of thing. But if I say I choose to, that empowers me.
Right.
To do it.
Yeah.
And that's the energy.
Well, and making it an obligation is rather than something you're doing is always going to make, I guess, put more of a negative connotation on it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think those kind of things too can put you into overwhelm, where it's almost like it just keeps building up the have-tos. And you can take your have-to, say, for a day and have 5 of them, and you can choose to do 3 of them and choose to do the 2 the next day. So it also, that's what I'm talking about, again, an empowerment of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and speaking on that, we went to a party yesterday at a friend's house. Now, we all know I'm not big on crowds, and I'm not big on a lot of people, but I thought it was going to be like a kind of intimate little thing, and I walked downstairs, there's like 15 people down there. I don't know any of them. So I was just like, okay, so I hung out with my like little group that I knew, and then I started getting overwhelmed. So they have like a little TV room that nobody was sitting in, and I went in there and just kind of sat down, and T was upset, so I like put her to bed and like fed her and got her all arranged, but I just like sat in there for a few minutes, and it kind of, all the friends that I had there were like, you did so good tonight, I'm so proud of you for like taking your little break. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's such a like thing, you don't think about people being proud of you for handling something. And because I knew I was getting overwhelmed and anxious and not comfortable, so I went and I changed my mindset. But it was kind of like I have to choose to, like, I didn't have to talk to and nobody forced me to, hey, you need to talk. You know, I didn't have anybody be like, you have to go talk to everybody, or you have to do this, you have to do that. I went and got my mind right, and I came back and I was way better afterwards, because I had time to myself and time to calm down and all that stuff. So it's nice to not have other people also forcing the have to on you and letting you do what you choose, because that's also a big factor of, especially when you're around friends.
Yeah, when you're in that,
like you have to do certain things.
When you're in that situation, check your breath, check your breathing, because a lot of times when you get into those situations, the overwhelm or the groups, it's your breathing will start to slow down, and your CO2 won't get out, and then that starts to create the anxiety too. So when you get into those, I'm not saying don't take a break, but I'm saying try that breathing. Just get into some good breathing before, and see if that lowers it.
And I mean, it wasn't like a long time. It was just a couple minutes. Mm-hmm. And I do I have some breathing stuff I've learned from people, and but it was just nice to like when I came back, nobody made a big deal about it until the end of the night. They were just saying how they were glad I handled it how I did, because I could have had I could have gone home. Ash and I drove separate, so I could have just left the party. And it's also really funny when you're with a bunch of people who are drinking, and you have I think I had two hard ciders last night, and they were all like, how are you not drinking right now? It's real easy when you look at you guys being goofy all the time. It's really easy.
I just take my sample.
That's what
But
Amanda said she loves sober Bobby around all the drunk people, because I just say everything that they're not going to, like, drunk people wouldn't notice, but I'm sitting here pointing everything out.
Yeah, you don't need to be there, do you? You just can be you. But the good thing about excuse me. Go ahead.
I think that had a lot to do with my drinking when I was younger. Is I would drink to help myself come out of my shell and not feel the overwhelm or the anxiety, but you're just destroying your body that way, because I was drinking a lot, and now I'm just me all the time, so I don't need the drinks. I had they had two different ciders I'd never tried before, so I was like, oh, I'll try them. I don't need to not drink, but I don't. So I had one was really good, and then I had a peach one, which was. It took me half the glass to get used to it being a peach instead of apple, but it was good. But
I'd say
I just can't drink.
Those two would be in conflict, I would think, definitely.
It's just some of the things I just don't have a desire to do it, so it's nice for me.
The cool thing about that is you chose to do that, right? You didn't have to do that,
right? You
had options. You chose to do this other thing, which empowered you,
right? Which I think made it a way easier.
Yeah,
doing it.
And it also, I think, a lot of times when we say have to and then choose to, have to, our options are limited or we don't give ourselves options, right? Once we say we choose to, then we give ourselves more options, because it's like a closed-in conversation versus an open-in conversation.
Right. And that's never good for anybody. So, I mean, limiting your options, no matter what those options are even about, you're just hurting yourself. You're just taking yourself out of the game, you know what I mean? And
but it takes that.
Somebody was.
Go ahead.
So we were talking about kids. I forget who it was with. Somebody at work, a long time ago, and they were like, "Everybody's acting like I have to have kids, or I need to have." I was like, "You don't have to have kids. Why would you have to have?" I've never heard that. He's like, "Oh, well, my parents say I have to give them grandchildren." No, you don't. Well, I'm sure they would love for you to, but you don't have to do anything. You're an adult. How are they going to make you? It was just weird that somebody would say that. I mean, I gave you grandkids early, but
right.
And Jesse gave them to you real early.
Well, I had that same conversation with a lady, because she felt so pressured by her parents to have kids. They just wanted grandkids. And I gave her this little thing that said, really, it's not your problem. They just didn't have enough kids that were interested in having kids, so it's their fault.
Right.
If they'd had more kids, they'd have grandkids. And
Yeah, exactly.
I took care. I work with both the mom and the daughter, and it was just like the mom comes to me and says, "Would you just shut up?" When she told me that. I said, "Well, this day and age, you can have kids. You can still have kids."
Yeah.
So, but that was.
But that reminds me of Xander, because Xander, for the longest time, has said, "Dad," to everybody, "Dad, I'm gonna grow up. I'm gonna get a good job. I'm gonna have a bunch of adopted dogs, and I'm just gonna be me and my dogs my whole life." And I said, "Good. Are you gonna be happy with the dogs?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Good. Then I'll come see the dogs all the time." Like, I don't care if he has kids, but I got 3 more chances.
Right.
There's a good chance I'm gonna have some grandkids.
Yeah. So you had enough kids,
but I could never
to cover that.
Yeah, I got an extra one just as a fallback. I just can't imagine. I mean, and maybe it's just because we've been doing this healing you and I have been doing it together for, I guess the last, 9 years, I guess, around the time Grayson. And so this has been a long time of you and I repairing our relationship, and it's awesome, but helping that has shown me how to be, how I need to be. And I could never just pressure him into something, especially something like that. That's such an important decision to make for him.
Right.
It's for him to choose. And he could come home in a year and be like, "Dad, I found the girl I'm going to marry." He's going to be 14, but that's how fast things can change right now.
We're going to have 10 kids.
Especially he's a teenager. Yeah. Yeah.
And 1 dog.
I'm going to buy every other one a Christmas present every year.
Just draw names.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Secret Santa. The secret is who gets the bag, who gets the presents.
The secret is who's the one person that gets it. So when you did that, put yourself in timeout or at the party, that was something that you chose to do that. And it would have been different if somebody would have come up and said, "Bob, you look overwhelmed, go take a break," or in the have-tos, a lot of times it feels like we've been made to do it. And not like the conversation is somebody made me do it, but more like, what will people say if I don't do it?
Right.
Which is another process of being on the negative side of things. And again, like we talked about, not all have-tos are the negative side, but I just want people to realize that they can really go down a rabbit hole with this to get into the overwhelm, which also causes the depression and the anxiety.
Right. Well, and in the same vein, if somebody had said that to me, even if it wasn't a you need to or you have to, even if somebody just came over and said, "Hey, you look overwhelmed, you should go," or maybe you could do that, that would make my anxiety so much worse, because I try to get to the point where, not that people can't tell, but that I handle it before people really start to notice. And if somebody had noticed that I was worse off than I thought I was, then that would just make it go, "Oh, well, great now." And it's just like you said, a trickle-down effect. It goes from being a good night, in one scenario, it was a good night where I did everything I needed to do to calm down and get straight and get my head right. And then on the others, in another universe where somebody said something to me, it's ruined my whole night, and I leave and go home because I'm too stressed out to deal with people. And that's not what you want. I was having, everybody was having fun. I don't want to be that guy that, walks out of the party just because he's overwhelmed.
Yeah. So again, I think
so. It was just a good party though.
Yeah, it created a positive. When you took your choice, you did what you chose to do. It made it a positive experience. and then the support you got when you came back was even more positive.
If you can see you.